All right, good evening, DSST families. We're going to go ahead and get started. Thank you so much for joining us for our annual DSST Network FAFSA night, where we'll do a live walkthrough of the 2026-2027 free application for federal student aid, or the FAFSA. This event is going to be translated in both Spanish and Vietnamese, and it'll take us just a few minutes to get that set up. So please go ahead and call into the number on the screen and then enter the entry code to access this call in your preferred language. Best practice when doing that, once you get on, is to mute yourself on your phone and your computer so that you're totally silent on your end of the call and are just listening in to the translators who will be translating our video and our presentation tonight in Spanish and in Vietnamese. And my teammate Henry from our home office college success team will go ahead and drop that information in the chat as well. Right. Completing the FAFSA is the first step in understanding what types of financial aid might be available to you as the student for your college journey. The FAFSA must be completed each year that a student is in college. And so I know we also have some DSST alumni joining us tonight to renew their FAFSA for next year. And we hope your semesters are off to a great start this fall, and welcome home to DSST for the night. My name is Maria Finan, and I'm a member of the College Success team here at DSST Public Schools. I'm joined on the call by many members of our College Success team, including a team member from each of our 8 high schools. So if you have a specific question as we get started, just know that there are folks from your school here who can help you during the call. And I know we've got a lot of watch parties and dinners and families joining in community tonight too. So welcome if you're all together. A few notes before we get started. Tonight we'll be doing a step-by-step walkthrough of the 2026-2027 FAFSA. And as we do that, I'll be showing a test student account for both the student and the parent or contributor sides of the application. So just be aware when we're showing the video, it's kind of a fake or test profile that should mirror what you're seeing as you're doing the real FAFSA, but be sure to ask any questions along the way. The FAFSA is only available to students who are U.S. citizens and eligible non-citizens, and allows students to apply for federal student aid such as federal grants, work study, funds, and loans. Completing and submitting the FAFSA gives students access to the largest source of aid to help them pay for a college or career school. If a student is not a U.S. citizen, but you're an undocumented Colorado asset student, then you should instead complete the CASFA, which is the Colorado Application for State Financial Aid, which again is the State Financial Aid Act for undocumented Colorado asset students. The purpose of the CASFA is to determine the need for financial aid awards for students who have been historically excluded from receiving state and financial federal aid. CASFA positively supports Colorado families and is a logical next step in the efforts to erase equity gaps and put college in reach for the families who benefit most from a post-secondary education. While we won't be doing the step-by-step walkthrough of the CASFA tonight, the CASFA application is very similar to the FAFSA, and so you're welcome to watch the FAFSA tonight to understand how your CASFA application will look and feel. If you need support completing a CASFA application, please reach out to your DSST High School College Success team directly. And for those of you who are continuing to join, just want to reiterate that this event is being translated live in both Spanish and Vietnamese. So again, please go ahead and call that number on your screen and then enter the entry code so that you're able to access the call in your preferred language. After the call, I'll provide a recording of the English guide as well as a Spanish version of tonight's video, which was provided by Montview's Director of College Success, Nubia Mendoza. All attendees on tonight's call will receive an email with additional guides, resources, and next steps after filling out the FAFSA or the CASFA. Before we get started, we'll want you to gather any documents you may need to support your application, including your login information and any tax and asset documents you might need. The FAFSA uses information from your 2024 taxes, so it's helpful to have a copy with you for reference. You'll want student and parent Social Security numbers, if applicable, and your login information for your federal student aid accounts, which I know most of you have been working to create during seminar at DSST. Finally, it's helpful to have a record of any untaxed income benefits and assets that your family might have. Please use the Q&A feature tonight in Microsoft Teams to submit any questions that come up along the way, and a member of our College Success team will support you. Finally, if you have any questions after the call ends, please reach out to the College Success Team at your DSST high school directly, and we will go ahead and get started. Might take just a moment or two as we transition over to the recording, and we'll pause throughout for moments where you might need extra time to watch the video, enter your own information, and ask any questions. Let's get started.
Hi DSST families, and thank you so much for tuning in to our 2026-2027 FAFSA demo. My name is Maria Finan, Senior Manager of College Success here at DSST Public Schools. Today, we'll be walking through the student and the parent process for submitting the 2026-2027 FAFSA. The FAFSA, or the Free Application for Federal Student Aid, is a free application that determines your eligibility for federal student financial aid, such as grants, work study, and loans. It is also used by states and colleges to award their own financial aid packages. Completing the FAFSA is a crucial step in financing college and is used to evaluate eligibility for various aid programs, including Pell Grants and federal student loans. Submitting the FAFSA to the colleges you are applying to is the first step in learning what financial aid you may be eligible for as a college student. Congratulations on getting ready to take that step today. The FAFSA application is for students who will be in college in the fall of 2026, spring of 2027, or the summer of 2027. So this year's DSST high school seniors will complete the form, as well as any DSST alumni who are currently in college and may be tuning in with us. If you or your family is interested, we also have this FAFSA guide recorded in Spanish by Director of College Success, Nuvia Mendoza, and it will be linked below. If you have any questions throughout the process, please reach out directly to your College Success team at DSST. Let's get started. The FAFSA application is available each year at the studentaid.gov website. Go ahead and head there now. Once you are at studentaid.gov, you can see the FAFSA for 2026-2027 right here on the home page. If you are starting your form today, click Start New Form. If you have a form in progress already, click Edit Existing Forms to return to where you last left off. Most of our DSST students, alumni, and parents have already created their FSA ID accounts to log into FAFSA, but if you still need to do that, you can create an account in the top right corner where it says Create Account. Let's get started with a new FAFSA.
All right, and we will pause here for a few moments to allow you time to log in to your student FAFSA portal using your FSA ID and password. If you have any questions as you log in, feel free to put them on the call using the Q&A function, and a member of DSST's College Success team will reach out to you, and we will give you some time to get logged in now and then restart in about 30 seconds.
For today's demo, I am using a prototype site to complete a FAFSA for a pretend student named Raya Tran. It has a similar look and feel to the actual FAFSA itself. As I walk through Raya and their parents' account, you'll have the time to complete your real FAFSA application with you and your family's information. Now, let's begin a new form, and from there it will prompt you to log in. So on your screen, go ahead and log into your FAFSA and complete a new form, and I will open Raya's FAFSA so we can walk through it together. I'm going to go log in as our student Raya, who is doing the FAFSA as a brand new first-time student. So you can see here, after she's logged in, she'll have the option to start a new form. You can also head here to edit any existing forms. If you are a contributor and you're accepting an invitation to join a FAFSA, you can do so here as well. It is going to prompt you to indicate who you are as starting the FAFSA, whether you're a student or a parent. You can start from either the student or the parent side, but DSST's advice is to start the FAFSA as a student. It's the most streamlined and straightforward way to begin the form, and after all, it is the student's FAFSA. Let's dive in and start the form as Raya, our pretend student. From here, there are going to be a number of FAQ questions, some quick videos to help you understand the FAFSA a bit better. So feel free to take a look at these if you'd like to. We're not going to look at them today, but I do want to highlight what you might need to get ready to fill out the form. The 2026-2027 FAFSA is going to be based on a student and family's 2024 tax data. So we're going to want to have those ready documents on hand if possible. And if any of these other things apply to you, including records of child support received, current balances of cash savings and checking account, and net worth of investments, businesses, and farms, it's helpful to gather some of that information ahead of time so that you have everything ready to go for the FAFSA. The next section is going to talk about who contributors are with the FAFSA process. So, a contributor is anyone who is joining the form and is required to provide their information. So, this could be a student's parent or step parents, depending on their family situation, a spouse if the student is married. If you're unsure who might be a contributor on your FAFSA, you can use the Who's My Contributor tool, which is embedded in the FAFSA, or go back to studentaid.gov/FAFSA-apply/parents. And let's walk back real quick and see where that tool lives. If you need to know which parent is considered a contributor, this is some helpful information.
All right, we'll pause here for a few moments for students and any families who may need a moment to use the Who's My Contributor tool from FAFSA, which my teammate has linked here in our chat, and that'll help you determine whose information should be provided on the FAFSA. If you already have your contributors with you, just use this time to gather your tax documents so that we can be ready for the next section, and we will unpause in just a moment.
A few things to note before we start the application. Completing the FAFSA should only take about 30 minutes to complete or even less. Every single individual who provides their information on the FAFSA will need to provide consent and approval for any relevant tax information to be transferred automatically from the IRS. Last but not least, after you submit your FAFSA, it will be processed in just a few business days. From there, you'll be able to receive an official update that the form has been processed via email, as well as a notification of your student aid index. That number is a number that financial aid administrators use to determine your financial aid eligibility at each college you apply to. Once a school has your official FAFSA and you've been admitted, that's also key. They will then be able to work on issuing you your financial aid award offers. All right, let's jump in. We're going to start the FAFSA form now. Since Raya is logged in, all of this information is populated already. Take a look at it and make sure it's accurate. If you need to change anything, you'll want to do so through your account settings, which are linked here in the middle of the page. So for Raya, let's just update where she lives. And we'll hit continue. Next, we are going to indicate the student's state of residence. This is typically where the student lives when they're not attending school. For our DSST students and alumni watching, if you were born in Colorado, you will use your birth month and year. Otherwise, you can indicate the approximate date that you moved to Colorado. The next section is where you'll provide consent and approval. And the next section is approval for an individual's tax information to get transferred directly from the IRS onto the FAFSA form. This step saves families so much time, especially if it links successfully, which it does for most individuals. So take a look and read through all of the information to provide your consent. There are some FAQs here at the bottom, and then you'll hit approve, and your tax information will be automatically transferred in from the IRS website and into your FAFSA. Importing your information is the fastest, most accurate way to add tax info into your FAFSA and is DSST's recommended method. If you hit decline, that does mean that the student will not be eligible for any financial aid. So the process is really important, even if you didn't work or if you didn't file taxes, because what will happen is the IRS will say, hey, we don't have a record on file for this student. And if that matches, if you didn't work or file taxes in 2024, that's all we need to do. You'll get a notice here if your information is securely and successfully imported, and it looks like it was for Raya, and we'll see that success message. If for some reason the IRS is not able to transfer your data automatically, that is okay. That's where you're going to want to have your tax forms on hand because the FAFSA will then prompt you to type those numbers in by hand manually. So it might take you a little longer, but it's still okay and you'll be able to provide your information for the FAFSA with your taxes.
We're going to pause for just a few moments here to ensure that students are able to link their IRS records to the FAFSA using the automatic transfer. Again, if the IRS link does not work for you, that's totally okay. You'll be able to add your tax information manually using the copy of your taxes that you have with you tonight. Feel free to drop any questions about linking or adding your student tax information to the chat now, and a DSST team member will help you. Remember, this section is just for student finances and information, and we'll get to the parent section in a little bit.
All right, the next section is going to talk about the student's personal circumstances to determine who they need to move forward with inviting on their FAFSA form. The section will talk about the student's current marital status. And keep in mind, we are on the student section, right? Sometimes we can get a little bit confused and think that it might be asking about our parents, but this is about the student's marital status. In Raya's case, she is the student and she is single, so I'll select that here. Next, we'll indicate the student's college or career plans for the 2026-2027 school year. Will they be a first year, a sophomore, junior, or beyond, or are they working on a master's or a doctoral program, as some of our alumni might be? If you're a brand new student headed to college for the first time next fall, you'll mark first year freshman. And of course, as you're moving through the financial aid process from one year to the next, these questions will likely be updated as you move on. If you're a DSST alumni watching this, just indicate what your level will be in the 2026-2027 school year next year. Next, when the student starts the 2026-2027 school year, will they already have their first bachelor's degree? Yes or no? For most of our students, you have not graduated with college from a bachelor's degree, so you're going to mark no and we'll move on from here. Next, there are a number of personal circumstances here that will help to determine if a student is considered independent for financial aid purposes, meaning that the student does not need to include parent information on the FAFSA. Typically, students that are under the age of 24, unless they meet one of these other exemptions, do need to include their parent information on the form. So we've got a couple of options here. If the student is serving on active duty with the armed forces, if they're a military veteran, if the student has a child of their own or other people who live with them and receive more than half of their financial support, or have any time since the student turned 13, were an orphan, a ward of a court, or they were in foster care, or a legal guardianship with someone other than their parent or step-parent, indicate that here. All of these situations would have court paperwork involved. They would have to be determined by a court in their state of residence. I know sometimes students are confused by the legal guardianship question, but this would be if a court determined someone other than your parent or step-parent was your legal guardian. But none of these apply. If none of these apply, check that box and move on from here. The next question is referring to student homelessness. So, on or after July 1st of 2025, was the student unaccompanied and either homeless or self-supporting and at risk of being homeless? Yes or no? If you are a student answering yes to this question, we would also encourage you to work directly with your college team at DSST to receive additional guidance and learn about more support. The next section is going to discuss student unusual circumstances. So these are a number of examples that would normally prevent a student from contacting their parent, or if contacting their parent might pose a risk to the student. A student may be in this scenario if they are in an abusive or a threatening environment, if they've been abandoned or estranged from their parents, if they have refugee status, have experienced human trafficking, perhaps parents are incarcerated, or if contact with the parents would be a risk, or a student may be unable to locate their parents. If you are in one of these situations, you would mark yes here. Then you'll likely want to follow up with the financial aid offices that you are sending your FAFSA to discuss this further because they may need to talk through some of your options. These are not all of the examples, but these are some of the more common ones. If this does not apply to you, you'd hit no and move on. Based on how we answered those questions, our example student Raya is determined to be a dependent student. This means that parent information to be listed on the FAFSA. The next question is asking if the student's parents are refusing to provide their information on the FAFSA form. Maybe they are supportive but not willing to file the FAFSA. That could be the case. If so, the student would mark yes and they would be eligible for only a direct unsubsidized loan. But again, not our most common scenario. The parents are not refusing, so they will move forward with the next section. All right, a couple more questions about demographics and background of our student.
All right, we're going to pause here for just a moment just to reiterate that in our student example, Raya is a dependent student who does need to provide parent information, which is the case for most of our DSST students, and the example we'll show tonight. If you think you might be an independent student, check the dependent or independent link that our college success team has just added to the chat to confirm your status before moving forward.
These demographic questions are not provided to any of the colleges that you are sending your FAFSA to. They are simply for federal data purposes. They will not impact your financial aid eligibility, and they're not used in any aid calculations. This question asks here, what is the student's sex? What is the student's race and ethnicity? The student can select from the options, and there are drop downs for further details. We can also mark prefer not to answer. All right, we're going to answer the next question about student citizenship status. To be eligible to file a FAFSA, a student must be a U.S. citizen or national or an eligible non-citizen. If the student is an eligible non-citizen, they will provide their A number in the box here. The next question asks about the education status of the student's parents. This can be utilized at times for state grant and scholarship purposes. So, did neither parent attend college? Did one or both attend but not finish? Did one or both complete college? Or if you don't know, you can indicate that as well. The next question asks if the student's parent or guardian was killed in the line of duty either while serving on active duty in the U.S. Armed Forces or after 9/11, or in official duties as a public safety officer, yes or no? The next question indicates high school completion status. When the student starts college for 26-27, will they have their high school diploma or a state recognized high school equivalent like a GED? Were they homeschooled or none of the above? Here is where you need to indicate what high school you graduated from. You can search by state, city, and then the high school will appear. Make sure you add it and then hit continue. So for our DSST students, feel free to enter Colorado as your state and then indicate the DSST high school that you either will or have graduated from. As a reminder, this is a test account for Raya, so you won't see DSST listed, but go ahead and select Colorado, Denver, or Aurora, and then DSST high school with the indicator of which campus you will or have graduated from. Okay, this is our test high school. Bellin High is where Raya graduated from. Again, please indicate the DSST high school that you will or have graduated from and hit continue. And then this will just verify that the information is correct and we'll move on. The next section is going to ask about student finances. What if you have special financial circumstances? The FAFSA requires 2024 tax information from students and/or parents or spouses. At times, things can change from one year to the next. Maybe a parent has experienced a job loss or a change, something that makes the income on FAFSA not reflective of their current financial situation. You'll still have to indicate your 2024 information on the form, but you're welcome to follow up with the financial aid office of the school you're attending or plan to go to next year to let them know about the change in either the student or the parent's circumstances, and they'll walk you through the next steps for any potential reconsideration of income. So let's go ahead and hit continue. Was there an IRA pension rollover, meaning funds transferred from one plan to another? For Raya, we'll enter 0. The next question, amount of college grants, scholarships, or AmeriCorps benefits reported as income to the IRS. Most students will answer this question with a 0 because most scholarships and grants, including the federal Pell Grant, are not considered taxable income. Only report amounts if you are required to claim them as taxable income. For the foreign earned income exclusion, if you had that, you would find it on your federal 1040 form on Schedule 1, line 8D. For Raya, we'll put 0. The next section is about student assets, so an estimate of how much the student has in cash, savings, checking accounts, the current net worth of investments, including real estate, not including the value of the home you live in, and the current net worth of any businesses and investment farms. Don't include a family business with 100 or fewer employees or a family farm if it's where the family resides. For the next section, we'll be adding our colleges and career schools. This is where you're going to indicate where you want to send the FAFSA form. You can search by state or enter a school code. So I'll show an example. So let's search. Again, remembering that this is just a test form, so the schools reflected here are not fully encompassing of what you'll see on the actual FAFSA form, but we want our DSST students to take time to pause now and add all of the colleges that you think you will apply to for next year that you want your FAFSA to be sent to, or for our DSST alumni, indicating the college that you'll be at next year. You can search here by state or school code, so
Okay, we'll pause here for a moment to allow our DSST seniors to add any colleges that you're considering attending next year. either by using the school search function or adding to the school codes if you know them. Adding colleges to your FAFSA application means that your FAFSA will be automatically sent to each school's financial aid office so that they can generate a financial aid package for you. DSST alumni just add the college you'll be at next year if you're returning to the same school, or any additional colleges if you're considering a transfer. We'll take a few moments now to add colleges before moving on with the rest of the student section.
Showed the example searching by state, and I'll come back to that shortly, but you can also enter the federal school code for your school's financial aid office if you know it. For example, CU Denver's federal school code is 004508. You would hit search. And again, because this is a test profile, we're just seeing a few schools, but if you know your school's federal school code, go ahead and add those now. So I'll select a few schools for Raya. Okay. And then just keep in mind, some states require that you list an in-state school to be considered for state aid, but go ahead and make your selections now. You can add up to 20 schools per FAFSA form, and you can always return to the FAFSA at any time to change or update your college selections and submit the form to new schools. So this is key for our DSST current seniors, that you can always come back and add schools or take schools off if your plans change. For our alumni, you can come back mid-year if you happen to transfer. So just select the schools that you think you'll be at next year, and we'll move on. Next, we invite a parent as a contributor. Sometimes it can be confusing which parent to invite, especially in the cases of divorce or separation. There's a tool in the FAFSA to help determine which parent's information to include. It depends on who provided more financial support in the past 12 months, or if you feel that's equal, who has the greater income or assets. What I just clicked on is the who counts as a parent on the FAFSA form, so you can use this tool to determine who you should be including. And if you know, we'll go ahead and hit continue. Once you identify that parent, the student only needs to invite that parent. If the parent has remarried, the step-parent's information will be required as well. As a new feature this year, we now only need the parent's email address to invite them to the FAFSA form. not having their social security number, date of birth, or address like last year. We just need the email. So we'll go ahead and invite Raya's parent. Okay, let's go ahead and invite. And it's asking, do we want to send the invite to Ryan's parent? So we'll go ahead and do that now. And it shows here at the bottom that that was sent. And we'll move on with the rest of the student section. After sending the invite, the parent will receive an email and can join the FAFSA via link or code. We'll come back to that shortly. But for now, we're at the end of Raya's section of her FAFSA for 2026, 2027. So let's make sure to review all sections, manage any contributor information if needed, and sign the FAFSA. This is a step that many students forget. So let's review. And if you have questions about any of the answers that you put in, you can always unhide them here using the caret key to make sure that everything looks good. We can review that she has all of the colleges that she wanted to attend and send the FAFSA to, and then confirming where we sent the parent code for Raya's parent to log in next. So that all looks good, and let's go ahead and hit continue. All right, so now Raya will review one more time and sign and complete. You do have to verify here by marking the box to electronically sign. Again, this is a step many students forget, so let's go ahead and hit sign student section. All right, and now it says pending submission and check with your contributor. So we're moving on to the parent side of the FAFSA, and it's reminding us that because Raya is a dependent student, her form won't fully be submitted until her contributor fills out the parent side and signs it. And it shows us as a review here what email address we sent it to and the invite code. So you can either open the email that Raya's parent received, or we can use the invite code to jump to that section of the form. All right. So next we're going to switch over to completing the parent section of the 2026-2027 FAFSA. If you and your student are together and sharing a computer, best practice is for them to log out of the FAFSA entirely on their computer so that you can log in, and then we'll go ahead and switch to the parent side. Okay, so here is the email that Raya's parent received, and it says, Dear Alcina, which is Raya's parent, Raya has started their FAFSA and added you as a contributor. Raya won't be eligible for federal student aid without your input, and then it's prompting us to accept the invitation to help Raya finish her FAFSA. All right. Many parents watching this may have already created their FSA IDs in advance, but just as a reminder, if you are a parent needing to create an FSA ID account for the very first time, you can pause now and create an account back on studentaid.gov. Moving on, parents will also need to give consent for that IRS data transfer, even if they didn't file taxes in 2024. So let's go ahead and log in. And it's showing the invitation code, so we are accepting that to jump to Raya's FAFSA and accept. All right, and same kind of debrief questions about the FAFSA form. And if anything's changed since the last time a parent logged in, including email address, mobile phone number, and then their address, we can do that here. Hit continue. Okay, so similarly to what Raya did, we are providing consent for the IRS data transfer. Even if a parent didn't file taxes in 2024, we'll want to sync up with the IRS to securely import that information into Raya's FAFSA. So it's doing that now, and it says success. We've confirmed your information with the IRS. Let's go ahead and continue. Next, we'll move on to parent demographics, including marital status, date of residence, and when they became a resident. In the case of our test student, Raya, her mom is single and never married. And she lives in Colorado. Next, we'll move on to parent finances. And this next question is about federal benefits received. So it's asking, did anyone in the household receive benefits like the Earned Income Tax Credit, federal housing assistance, free or reduced lunch, Medicaid, health coverage, tax credits, SNAP, SSI, which is the supplemental security income, temporary assistance for needy families, WIC, or if none of these apply. So for Raya's family, none of these apply. For many of our students, these programs do apply, so just indicate which federal benefits your family has received. Next, we'll update the household size if it's changed since 2024. For example, if there's a new child in the household or if a dependent moved out. And then for 2026, 2027, we'll indicate how many in the household, excluding the parents, will be in college next year. For Raya, she's the only sibling, but many families may have multiple siblings in college at the same time. So go ahead and indicate that here. Next, we'll add that same additional tax information, including IRA pensions or rollovers, taxable grants or scholarships, foreign income exclusions. If none apply, go ahead and enter 0. And if these do apply to you, it will indicate the boxes to look at on your IRS forms. Then we'll look at annual child support received. So if the parent is receiving child support for anyone in the last calendar year. Next, we'll do parent assets. So total cash savings, checking, and investments, not retirement accounts or the house that you live in. You will want to include the value of any 529 plans or parent assets. And then for businesses, do not include the value of a family-owned business with less than 100 employees or a farm where you live. And we'll go ahead and hit continue. And then we'll review the FAFSA responses here. So similar to Raya, the parent has the opportunity to just review now and make sure that all of the information that was included was correct. As a reminder here, if your family situation is that a parent has remarried and filed taxes separately, the spouse will also need to be invited as a contributor, which the FAFSA will automatically prompt you to do after these next few screens. Once all contributors have completed their sections and signed, the FAFSA is complete. So let's hit continue here. And Raya's parent will go ahead and electronically sign the parent section of the FAFSA on behalf of Raya Tran. And it says, congratulations, the FAFSA form is complete for Raya, and it shows our completion date of today, October 24th, 2025. And these are the steps that happen next. So let's talk through the next steps after Raya's parent, Alcina, signed her form. The student will receive an email confirming that the parent finished their section and that the FAFSA is complete. The student will then receive a FAFSA submission summary, which shows an eligibility overview, the answers they submitted on their FAFSA form, which schools they submitted the FAFSA to, and any next steps. So let's take a look at an example of what that FAFSA submission summary looks like on Raya's end once this was complete. Okay, so if you're doing this now and you're the student, you can log back into your FAFSA. You likely got an email from FAFSA directly saying that your parent had signed off on the form and that the form was complete, or indicating that there might be other contributors still working on their sections. You can also log back into your FAFSA portal, so go ahead and log back in now. We're back on Raya's side where it shows student Raya Tran, the day that the application was received, and the day that the application was processed. Okay, so again, this shows the eligibility overview on this tab, showing her estimated student aid, including loans, work study, and Pell Grants. It shows her FAFSA form answers, so if she ever has any questions about what was entered on the FAFSA, she can return here. It shows which schools she submitted her FAFSA to with estimates and information about average debt, annual costs, and graduation rates for each schools. And then it's reminding her of any next steps, which is correcting any errors on the FAFSA form, making sure that schools have everything they need, and letting them know to contact financial aid with any questions. And a reminder to reach out directly to your school to find out if any additional documentation is required. And then let's go back to this eligibility overview. On this first tab, the student also receives what's called a Student Aid Index, which you may hear abbreviated as SAI, a Student Aid Index. Schools use the SAI to determine a student's federal age eligibility and to build their financial aid award offer. The SAI is a reflection of a family's financial need and what they might be able to contribute towards a student's academic expenses next year. SAIs can be negative too, and that's okay. It simply means a family has more need. Once you've reviewed your FAFSA submission summary, we highly recommend that you forward the confirmation email that you received from FAFSA to your DSST college advising team if you're currently a senior at DSST. So go ahead and pause now if you are a current senior at DSST and forward that confirmation email to your college advisor. This supports your work in overgrad in school as you continue to plan your college journey. So take the time now to forward that FAFSA submission summary email. And DSST alumni, we recommend that you just save a copy for your records. It will take a few days for your FAFSA to be processed, and you'll be able to track its status and any processing updates online. Once your colleges receive your FAFSA, they'll process your information and provide you with a financial aid award letter for 2026-2027, showing what grants, loans, scholarships, and work study opportunities they might offer you. You'll want to compare award letters and talk to your family and your college success team to make a decision that is right for your college journey. If the schools you submitted FAFSA need more information, you may need to complete a process called verification to confirm the information about your family size, residency, taxes, and more. And that's actually what it's showing here on this last page under number 2, where it says make sure schools have everything they need. Verification is completed with your college's financial aid office directly, not through the FAFSA portal. So once you start receiving information from the colleges that you applied to, be sure to keep an eye on your student portal as we head into next year and check your emails for each school that you apply to so that you can always contact the financial aid office at your college directly if you have any more questions. All right. So I'm going to take us back to the home page now that we have successfully completed Raya's FAFSA. Thank you so much for tuning in to this demo for the 2026-2027 FAFSA with DSST Public Schools. We hope this was helpful and gives you the confidence you need to file the form with your family. You can return to this video at any time, and as a reminder, a link to our Spanish recording and resources will be available. If you have any questions about submitting the form or next steps, do not hesitate to reach out to the College Success Team at your DSST high school. Congratulations on submitting the FAFSA and on taking the next steps towards your college success.
All right. Thank you, DSST, for joining our annual Network FAFSA night. Our college success team will stay on for the next few minutes. And if you have any questions about submitting the FAFSA form or next steps after submission, do not hesitate to reach out to the college success team at your DSST high school. Congratulations on submitting the FAFSA and on taking the next step towards your college success.